not have a career in journalism if you are banned from social media. You have to have social media. And then what happens is these companies, if they ban you, you can't just create a new account because they trace your VPN and whatnot, and they ban you according to your phone number. So you would have to go and buy a new phone, technically speaking, every single time you get banned from social media if you wanted to have another account. And then if they find out that you're evading their suspension rules, they ban you again. And it's been very difficult for people like my own video editor. He is, he's had issues. It causes people financial issues, professional issues, because you lose all your contacts if you are a content creator or a journalist when you are suspended or banned on social media. And it's very troubling, and this is why I took it upon myself to confront Jack Dorsey during the congressional hearing in September, and I called him out because he's a liar, and he knows that he's lying to Congress, and it's a crime to lie to Congress. And I think it's really shameful that people like Sheryl Sandberg and Jack Dorsey would come to Congress and waste the American people's taxpayer dollars and lie to them when they have been caught on camera by Project Veritas and other individuals admitting, right, in leaked video. And you look at a lot of these different whistleblowers who have come out and said that their policies are inherently biased towards conservatives. So, I had to take it upon myself to confront Dorsey in Congress. And I said, you're lying about not expressing bias towards conservatives because, you unverified me for no reason. Jack Dorsey totally defamed me. I mean, the night that he took away my verification, there was a huge banner moment on Twitter that said, Twitter removes verification from prominent white supremacists and Nazis. And there was a big picture of my face. I don't understand how Jack Dorsey think that's acceptable to do to somebody. He has a responsibility as the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar technological company that is global. And he is, ruining the lives of everyday people who don't even have a chance of competing in that type of scale. Everyday citizens, they don't have billions of dollars, and you're going against this company that basically can defame you in the course of 30 seconds. I mean, once a Twitter moment pops up, it's seen by millions of people all around the world, and there's no recovering from that, and it's really sad because I know a lot of people whose lives have been ruined because of this.
Well, I know when I was suspended, I tried contacting Twitter. They suspended me right before the California primaries at the beginning of the summer. My 75,000 follower account, 75,000 follower account. I had just hit that, and it was right before the California primaries. And like you, I'd been promoting MAGA candidates out in California. We had just done a Clear Flynn Now hashtag campaign on Twitter that was very successful, and working how to get hashtags trending and elevate the exponential reach of tweets and the messaging. And they suspended me as a bot. I'm like, I'm so not a bot. And you cannot get a hold of anybody at Twitter support. You can't get a live person if you try calling them. It's impossible. I mean, the worst customer service of any company ever.
It's so funny that you said that, because my video editor and I were talking about this today, and we were like, how is it that these companies that have billions of dollars don't even have a call center where you can call them and talk to people? And I think they do it on purpose. Honestly, I think they do it so that they can control the narrative and censor people and silence people, because you hear instances of celebrities, right? They violate rules all the time. Like, celebrities post profanity, they post naked pictures, they post pornography, they get away with violating rules all the time. And there just seems to be like two sets of rules for different people on Twitter, especially when it comes to your political affiliation, and on Facebook and even Instagram as well, which is owned by Facebook. And it's very, very concerning to me because, like you said, I've heard stories like yours of people who have very large accounts and they just get suspended, and that is income,
So what do you think is so scary about conservative women, of MAGA women? What? how big a threat are we?
I think they're just scared of the truth and the popularity of conservative politics, which is why Jack Dorsey is now debating getting rid of the like button on Twitter. I mean, they want to make it so that people can't like posts because conservatives get more likes than liberals on Twitter, and they're scared that these conservative politicians all around the world, I mean, look at what just happened in Brazil too, right? and they're nervous because a lot of people are seeing and being influenced by social media. And if you see a conservative post that gets a lot of likes, it gets your mind going, right? You're like, why do people like this so much? And it's human nature. If I'm scrolling through Twitter and I see a post that has 20,000 likes, I'm going to look at what that post is to see, because I'm thinking, wow, a lot of people are interested in this. What's going on here? And so it's so laughable what they're doing. And it's really going to destroy their business model. And they've already lost a ton of money. During the congressional hearing and after they censored a lot of people and shut down a lot of accounts these past 2 months, they took a nosedive in the stock market. And same with Zuckerberg. He lost billions of dollars.
Laura, so I was watching when you did go to the hearings, and you, let's talk a little bit about this, because I thought this was actually very cool. You refused to be silenced. Let's talk about what you did when you got there and Jack was there right in front of you.
Yeah. Right. So I showed up to the social media hearing, I believe it was September 4th or the 5th. I think it was the 4th. In DC, when Jack Dorsey and Sheryl Sandberg were testifying to the different committees. And I was there with Alex Jones, who was banned from Twitter the day after, further proving that there is bias. And I was there with several conservatives who have been silenced and censored on social media. And I was able to get a seat inside the congressional hearing in the afternoon with Jack Dorsey. And he was testifying. And when he lied to Steve Scalise, who was actually shot, and it really honestly triggered me, because Steve Scalise, when he was shot on Twitter, there were so many Democrats who were posting things like, ha, 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 I'm so happy the Republicans got shot up. And Twitter wasn't doing anything about it. They were not suspending these accounts for violation of terms of services. But if you were to call somebody stupid and you're a Republican, and you call a liberal stupid, or even use the word retarded, these are examples, like common words that get you banned on Twitter. If you're a conservative, you will be banned. There's no question. And so when he lied to Steve Scalise, it just really set me off. And I confronted him and I said, you're a liar. You censored me. You censored Milo. You censored, Roger Stone, James O'Keefe, Chuck Johnson, and President Trump. Like, they deleted the president's Twitter account for several minutes. And then an employee admitted that they did it because they didn't like President Trump. That's conservative bias, And these idiot Congress people, they just sit there, and because they don't even use social media themselves and they have people who do it for them, right? They don't know that Jack Dorsey isn't telling the truth. They don't even know anything about social media. And so people in the audience were pretty outraged by this, but these Congress people decided to make a joke out of it. And unfortunately, the conversation then started to focus around this Congressman Billy Long, who did this auctioneer call to get me out of the room.
But that was one of the most ridiculous tactics I've ever seen.
Yeah, and it was really disrespectful too, because it just goes to show you how weak a lot of the conservative candidates are. And look, I'm a Republican myself, but we need better representatives, because how is it that during the Kavanaugh hearings, which were taking place at the same exact time at the congressional hearing, and by the way, that should be a dead giveaway that Republicans in the GOP today, they don't care about social media censorship. So you need to elect people who care, because why would you ever allow for the social media hearing to be scheduled at the same time as the Kavanaugh hearing? It barely got any media attention because it was during the Kavanaugh hearing, and the Republicans were allowing these liberal women to screech their heads off and express their free speech during the Kavanaugh hearing. But then when a Republican stood up and confronted Dorsey in a very peaceful way, right? Mind you, I was very respectful as opposed to those women. They shut me down. And I'm a taxpayer. And if Jack Dorsey is going to be lying on my dime to Congress, well, I should have a right to disrupt the hearing and confront him.
Yeah, absolutely. Jack is, as I mentioned, he's in the industry. He's known as a smart programmer, and I think everyone would agree with that. He's been good at developing his initiatives over the years, and he likes to portray himself, and I actually believe this, going back in Jack's history, as a very humble guy. He'd ride the bus to work. I think he still rides the bus to work sometimes. I mean, Jack portrays himself as a nice guy, and look, he's a Democrat. I was a Democrat. Jack's given money to the party. I gave money to the party. He knows the Clintons. I knew the Clintons. I guess the difference is he didn't push in as far as I did to the inner workings of the party. He didn't see, he didn't ask the same questions I did about arms trafficking with Mexico, with the Clintons. He didn't get in a personal dispute like I did with Dennis Burke, the former United States attorney who resigned in the Fast and Furious scandal, who was the former compliance officer for mobiledotco, the company that I'm still bringing to market. And Dennis and I got in a big thing about that, but you'll hear more about that in the future, Laura. The point is, I have worked in the same industry Jack has. I'm familiar with the same policies as he is. I've run a big platform like he has. We never took it upon ourselves to go out and use technology as a platform for political activism. It's very strange. When you find yourself in a position where you're dominating a market, okay, because let's get real. There's just a few social media channels. And this is something that happens every so often in Silicon Valley. You get a concentration of brands that are dominant. A question starts to arise about the responsibility that those brands have to provide equal access, a level playing field. And I won't bore you with the old equal access laws that the FCC used to use for public radio, but there is a concept in law. It does get quite complex that when you're dominating a media channel, you have somewhat of a responsibility to provide equal access to both sides. I don't think that's happening. I'm wondering, how many days, Tamara, are we from the elections right now? A couple days away, right?
4 days away.
Yeah, I'm wondering if all of these things that have happened, including what's happened to you, Laura, have left a trail of evidence that tends to suggest that the social media platforms have been used for political activism.
Well, they are. There's articles that came out today. I can read them to you right now, and it's. I don't even think that it's debatable. I mean, there should be a massive class action lawsuit against Twitter, and they should have to pay for this. Jack Dorsey, you know, he should pay for this in terms of.
How many followers did you have? How many followers did you have in your account, Laura? The one that was shut down.
Well, it's only shut down for a week or so, so it's not a permanent ban. But I have almost 250,000 followers.
And how long did it take you to build that?
About see, I've had Twitter for several years, but I wasn't really active on it till this past year and a half because we couldn't really use social media at Veritas. So it took me about a year and a half or so to really build up my platform of like working very hard. But you know, Twitter today, for example, here are two headlines. Twitter deletes more than 10,000 accounts that sought to discourage voting. And not just any voting. It's accounts that were promoting Republican candidates and accounts that were discouraging people to vote for Democrats. So they are obviously election meddling because the Democrat Party flagged misleading messages to Twitter. So the Democrat Party is now, like I'm saying, they're going and mass reporting accounts that are conservatives, and they're accusing them of being bots or whatever. And Twitter is now shutting them down simply because the Democrat Party and their minions with verified accounts are mass reporting. And they're lying. They're just lying about stuff. Like there's a guy named Seth Abramson. He works for CNN. And he wrote this Russia conspiracy book, like accusing, you know, all this collusion and whatnot. He took my tweet that I said about George Soros being a Nazi collaborator. He said that it was not true what I was saying and cited Snopes, when Snopes has been found to have a heavy liberal bias. It's not even a credible site. Then he encouraged all of his supporters to basically mass report me. And then after that, I was shut down for a week, you know, and it's really unfair because if you look at Louis Farrakhan, for example, all I was doing was I was criticizing people, left-wingers, who are pretending to care about Jews who have associations with anti-Semites. And then they don't even shut down Louis Farrakhan, who called Jews termites and said Hitler was a really good man. So there is a bias. And even today, Twitter allowed for the hashtag #KillAllJews to trend, and they had to release a statement apologizing for that. So there's an egregious bias, and it's obviously controlled by the Democrat influence, the Muslim influence. They have a big Saudi shareholder over at Twitter, and I don't know what the inner workings are, but they're obviously allowing for these people to determine, you know, what speech is allowed, because there are certain patterns of things that get people shut down, especially if you talk about Islam. I mean, anybody who talks about Islam on Twitter is automatically just shut down or censored or shadow banned. And it shouldn't be that way because, you know, it's a political issue. It concerns political journalism and activism. And if Jack Dorsey is going to allow for Democrats to say things like, I want to kill President Trump, or I hope President Trump gets assassinated, or, you know, some of the really horrible things from verified accounts that are still up on Twitter, well, he should not be banning people for posting facts about Islam, or, like, for me, I got suspended for saying Linda Sarsour is vile. Why can't I say Linda Sarsour is vile? Is it not vile to call for jihad against President Trump? Is it not vile to say that Jewish people shouldn't be humanized? I don't get it, but she still has her account and she's never been suspended. That's a bias.
Yeah, it is really strange from where I sit, but we're going to continue investigating this. I want to ask you, just as a person who has your level of experience with social media, do you feel that the shutdowns are being coordinated by some mysterious group?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if well, it's obviously Democrats. I mean, it was just revealed today that the Democrats were flagging the accounts and getting them shut down. And so there's left-wing organizations, and especially they're embedded within Twitter. And it's not a surprise. Like you said Jack Dorsey donated money to the Democrat Party. Like, it's so obvious that this is a coordinated attack, because you have pictures with these social media executives meeting with members of the Democrat Party. They are not very receptive to meeting with conservatives at all. And when you look at a lot of the people who are in this left-wing movement, especially the anti-Trump movement, a lot of them have pictures with Jack Dorsey. So Colin Kaepernick, for example, DeRay from Black Lives Matter. Like, there are pictures that are very public with these people and Jack Dorsey, and I've never seen pictures with Jack Dorsey and Republicans. And the thing that really pisses me off about Jack is he likes to say, well, my dad's a Republican and my mom's a Democrat, so I see both sides. Well, no, not really. Just because your dad's a Republican doesn't mean that your dad is affecting your business model. And I don't even believe him. I don't believe him. If he's willing to lie to Congress about not censoring conservatives, he's willing to lie about his parents and make up some story to, you know, try to make it sound like he isn't biased. But we all know he is. He was caught on camera by Project Veritas, for crying out loud.
Yeah, I've heard him say that too, about his allegedly unbiased view due to his family's background. But it's undeniable what's happening. You mentioned Twitter employees have been caught on camera talking about shutting down Democrats. I actually sat with a group of Twitter employees a year ago in the cafeteria at Twitter, and we were talking about the same thing. It was a year and a half ago, but I was still closer to being involved with Democrats at that point, so it didn't seem so strange to me. All right, well, in a country that is supposed to be the global leader in free speech, and ironically in a political party that's supposed to be intellectual and open to vigorous debate, I just think it's quite strange. I listened to what Brandon Straka is talking about with the walkaway movement, how he used to be a Democrat and he finds the Democrat message has been diluted. The same things we used to stand for are being done in a hypocritical way. There's no longer room for vigorous debate. If you try to engage in vigorous debate, you're banned, blocked, ostracized, or eliminated from the planet, apparently. Eric Schmidt was around us, the former executive chairman of Google, as I was separating from my old Democrat friends 2013, 2014, as things were going south. And I started to see some of the things that my former group of friends, and they're directly tied into some of the people you mentioned, Chelsea Clinton. I have a big, bright, shiny photo of myself and Chelsea from a couple of years ago. And others were spending a lot of time with Eric Schmidt and the types of things that were being discussed. I have to tell you, you look at some of the things they're involved with. There's a company called Palantir that's doing nothing but crunching numbers and data. It's plugged into the United States Democratic Party. It's plugged into the Mexican PRI, which is a affiliate of the United States Democratic Party. The way the data is being used raises a lot of questions, and the way that the political activism is happening raises a lot of questions. What is your feeling in terms of the Democrat Party's approach to political activism online right now, Laura? Do you think it is limited to aggressive sort of online campaigning, or do you feel as though they're actually trying to obstruct and silence and do things that would cross over into being technically illegal.
They are definitely trying to obstruct and cross over, because we already saw that video that was released by Breitbart that just came out last month or so, that showed the meeting, that secretly recorded meeting from Google executives basically crying in a room when Donald Trump won, and they were talking about how they were going to fix it, and they were still with her, Hillary Clinton, right? I mean, how is it that a company is having meetings like this? Like, do they think it's appropriate for executives to be crying in front of employees about Donald Trump winning the election and talking about how they're going to help Hillary Clinton? I mean, you can't do things like that. If, especially the fact that these companies are essentially monopolies now, right? And they are not private companies. Google gets a lot of funding from the United States government. Google has government contracts. When you are, tied in with government organizations that are propped up and funded by the US taxpayers, you're not a private company. So I don't understand how these companies can use the defense that they are private entities and immune from lawsuits from citizens who want to sue them for obstructing their business, or silencing them and banning them and manipulating them, or selling their data, or surveilling on them. It's out of control, and they need to be regulated. There needs to be some type of antitrust law passed, or some type of public accommodation discussion that takes place surrounding social media and the internet, because at this point in time, in the era that we're in, it's essentially a public utility. The internet is a public utility. Social media is a public utility. And if you don't have access to social media, just like there's regulations in terms of other utilities like water, electricity, and there's rent control and things of that sort, you are at a disadvantage professionally, socioeconomically, educationally. There's no denying the impact that social media has on the everyday person's life in the developed world.
What is your take? Oh, sorry. I just want.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Tamara. Go ahead.
I was just curious, with Laura being a millennial and having grown up with social media, and yet it seems there's that component of her generation that seems so intolerant or unable to handle any diversity of opinion. Right. How do you see that as your age demographic gets older and has to deal with this more?
Well, I don't think things really used to be this way until Trump was elected president. And I used to say things on social media that were way more, I guess, inflammatory than things I say now, especially since I've had to tone it down with all the censorship. And I was never banned or shut down on social media. I mean, when Obama was president, I was saying very inflammatory things, and I was in high school, and I never got shut down or banned on social media. So this is obviously a reaction to President Trump being elected, because, I think that we all can think about our past social media posts and things that we said, and even things on Twitter in the past as well. Like, they never had this type of strict structure in place for monitoring people's speech or really enforcing what people said. And now you're getting suspended for tweets that are like 6 years old. I know conservatives who are being shut down for tweets that people are digging up that are, several years old. And I just think that, it's only going to get worse unless some type of other alternative platform is developed, or the government steps in. And I hate to say that the government should step in, but at this point in time, it's really starting to affect our elections. I think the government has to step in. And as conservatives, we're generally against government intervention, but what do you do when you have these companies that are so powerful that they're able to essentially silence half of the country and influence elections? I mean, that is not democracy. That's not.
As a journalist, a lot of what you're doing is investigative in nature. Right. And so certainly it hurts credibility for the other side to be silencing or taking steps to obstruct your investigations. I mean, let's face it, that's what's happening.
Well, that is what's happening. I didn't post anything that was, against the terms of service. They didn't like my political commentary, which I said Linda Sarsour was vile. And then they allowed for Democrats to spew lies about me and encourage people to mass report me for things that were totally absurd. I mean, there are even Democrat reporters who have messaged me on the side and said, yeah, I think this is really stupid. They didn't even give you a reason. People who don't like me, but they're still at least reasonable to say, hey, I think that you were unfairly suspended. And that's what they're doing. And there are pages, there are people who go through Twitter and they archive a lot of the posts from the verified liberal accounts to show the egregious double standard that takes place. And, I have more followers than most journalists on social media, especially Democrats, right? And I still have had my verification stripped from me, and I'm being unfairly treated and silenced when my journalism as a whole is getting more exposure than most of the verified journalists on Twitter. So for Twitter to be doing this to me, it just it's also concerning. And regardless of being shut down, if you look at the verification process now, they have totally changed their rules for verification as a way to strip conservatives of their identity. They said that they have halted their process and they're no longer going to verify conservatives. They said this when they took away verification from me a year ago. But how many liberals have popped up and had verified counts overnight with 1 million followers the next day? Look at the park. How come conservative candidates can't get verified who are running for Congress, but then the Parkland kids who say they're anti-gun can get a Twitter following of 1 million followers and a verified check mark in one day? How is that?
I know before we go, I just wanted to comment. I know that you have felt very strongly about giving a voice to conservative Jewish users of social media. How do you feel some of this applies to them, given some of the cultural history and considerations, and Jewish history in general, Laura? When you look at a group that is taking steps to silence voices.
Well, it is very concerning to me, and I do feel that these social media companies, given the fact that they have a lot of Islamic influence through their own shareholders, and like Twitter, for example, you have the Prince bin Talweed, who's the biggest shareholder. You look at Uber, there's a Muslim CEO. Like, there's a lot of politics at play in social media that people may not understand, and there is a lot of anti-Semitism, in my opinion. And I think it's especially egregious for Twitter to silence a conservative Jewish journalist 2 days after the synagogue shooting in Pittsburgh, simply because they were voicing a conservative Jewish position. And so I think that there is a danger to a lot of minority groups, and especially groups like Jews, conservative Jews, and any conservative minority, whether you're a Black conservative, whether you're a conservative Jew, a conservative Hispanic, because it's the conservative minorities, especially, who are being censored on social media. And I know many of them. And there needs to be a fair platform, a truly, open and pro First Amendment platform that can work with everybody. And, if it has to be conservative in nature at first in order to draw people in, so be it. But we need to return to a time when social media was open for everybody, and it was a form of expression and equal for all, because now it's extremely unfair, and it's causing a lot of political turmoil. And
you strike me as very calm and balanced and thoughtful in your way of thinking, Laura. Let me ask you a question. Would you be willing to debate Jack Dorsey on some of these issues directly if we were able to connect you with him?
Yeah, I would love to. It doesn't even have to be a hostile debate. I would just love to sit down with Jack Dorsey and show him some of the evidence I've collected myself and be like, what is going on? I would love to work with Jack Dorsey. I don't even want to have a fiery debate with him. I would love to just be invited to Twitter and bring a panel of conservatives, people who have been censored, so that they can actually listen to us, because I don't think Jack Dorsey has actually ever listened to conservatives and seen our concerns. And I think that he should really reinstate a lot of the accounts of the conservatives who he has silenced and shut down. And if he really wants conservatives to see that he is not biased and he's willing to work with us, and he wants people to take his platform seriously as a non-biased platform, then he should be open to that, because there's no reason why people with verified accounts should be able to say, F all white people, kill all white people, kill all the Jews, Jews are termites, kill the president, I hope Trump gets killed. And then somebody like myself gets suspended for saying Linda Sarsour is vile. It's just such a double standard. And I hope that Jack Dorsey would maybe consider even meeting with us. And he has open DMs on Twitter. I've tried messaging him before, but he doesn't reply to me. I've even sent him an email before, but he has not replied to me. And I would really like him to listen to conservatives and see our side, and maybe we can try to, de-escalate a lot of the tension on social media. But he's going to have to actually be willing to listen, and he's going to have to stop lying. And, he can be offended by me accusing him of being a liar, but he knows he's lying. You cannot tell Congress you don't censor conservatives when your employees are on camera admitting that they ban people who say they're pro-Trump, they're pro-gun, they're pro-America, they put flags in their profile. You just can't do that, It's better for him to admit the mistake and try to make amends.
I think you and Jack, although you may not believe me when I say this, and I'm certainly not vouching for anything he's done. Jack, if you've messed up, you need to apologize to this woman. But Jack is someone who tries to avoid confrontation. If there's an argument in the office, he'll walk in the next office. He's just that, and I admire that calm side to Jack. I wish I shared it as much as he did. I've been accused of being very engaged in disputes over time, right. As I'm sure you don't shy away from a good debate either, Laura.
I wouldn't mind debating him. I would love to, but I think that it'd be nice too if he would just actually invite conservatives to Twitter headquarters and sit down with us and have a discussion, and honestly allow us to have a conversation with the Twitter trust and security policy so that we can discuss our concerns. And I think that he should hire conservatives to work at Twitter on the Trust and Security Council as well, so that people can have a conversation and be like, all right, well, are we really going to be banning people for this speech when this is a valid concern, right? And also, they need to stop labeling people and allowing people to smear people and defame people online and ruin their lives on Twitter, because they're costing people's lives, and people have actually committed suicide because of this. And Jack doesn't seem to care about this, but there are people who have actually committed suicide because of the defamation and the smears that they have faced as a result of being attacked on social media and being smeared as a white supremacist or alt-right. And, he's done it to me before, it's unacceptable. I'm a Jewish conservative woman, and Jack Dorsey has totally defamed me, and he's never apologized to me. For the rest of my life on Google, there's going to be things that say I'm a Nazi, that say I'm a white supremacist, and I'm alt-right. And it's really impacted me and my profession and my ability to, advance or have relationships like in a professional manner in some instances, because there's this, widespread conspiracy that I'm like a white supremacist because of that picture Jack Dorsey used of me when they took away my verification. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really unfair for him to do that, and he's never apologized.
Jack, at a minimum, you need to apologize to this nice young lady. She's trying to engage in a thoughtful debate about politics. And
I would join that debate. I would have that conversation because
and maybe no. Jack needs to apologize to you too, Tamara.
I was the nicest tweeter ever. I mean, I was strong in my opinions, and I was,
I mean, let's face it. These nice ladies here are not engaging in hate speech. They're engaging in political debate. And so how do we solve that problem as technology executives? How do we give everyone the voice that they so much deserve when they're actually adding value to an ongoing debate? And how do we stop using these excuses like hate speech? Now, there is such a thing as hate speech. You guys are not involved in hate speech. There is such a thing. It's very ugly. You'll know it when you see it. But what you're doing is not hate speech. And
right, but even then, why should people be silenced? I mean, why do social media executives have the right to determine what is hate speech, right? We have a First Amendment right in this country. And honestly, as long as nobody's inciting violence against anybody, or as long as nobody is supporting terrorist organizations online, or calling for people to be threatened, or, trying to organize crimes on social media, I don't think they should be shut down. I don't know why people, especially adults, can't just say, all right, well, if I don't like this person's speech, I'm just not going to listen. Why do we have to determine what is right and what is wrong? I don't want to live in a world where social media executives who are Democrats get to sit in a room and decide what is hate speech, because
I see these videos of these groups that I can't even believe, like Antifa. I don't even think it existed. Maybe it did. I never saw it when I was a Democrat. But to me, that looks closer to hate speech than anything that the conservatives have been talking about in this ongoing
Yeah,
debate.
and there are screenshots that people have taken of Twitter employees who say they're members of Antifa that are silencing and shutting down conservatives. And, you know, I want to know. I want to have a conversation with Jack Dorsey. I want to know, why are your employees on camera talking about at dinner on secret recording how they targeted me for my views on Islam? Like, why do you think that's acceptable? You know, why do you think it's okay to smear people and call them alt-right and call them Nazis and white supremacists and ruin people's reputations? Why do you think it's okay to shut people down just without warning or even giving them a way to reinstate their account simply because of their views? And so I'd be very open. And if you're able to set that type of, you know, discussion up with Jack Dorsey, I'd be happy to work with him to try to get a panel of conservatives to discuss these issues, because I'm very active in the realm of, you know, social media censorship, and I'm in contact with many of the key players who have been shut down, and they're all very pissed off about this, and people would like to have a conversation.
Do you think, Laura, that it's bigger than just the political side? Do you think there's a financial, or to have independent journalists who are cutting into the attention of the consumers away from the MSM and their nice little, you know, circle of inside information, and you're a rogue voice out there.
I think there's an aspect of that, and that's why PayPal is now shutting people down too. And a lot of this is being led by CNN, and that already came out. CNN was working directly with Twitter. There was a report that came out to ban Alex Jones. And there is a guy by the name of Oliver Darcy, and he works for CNN, and he was going around basically reporting InfoWars and Alex Jones and working nonstop with Twitter to try to get conservatives shut down. And that's what they do. And that's why Alex Jones is now shut down. And these companies, especially mainstream media, they realize, wow, there are all these amazing, talented, independent journalists out there and people with different platforms, and they're able to get more viewers than us. They have more attention. They're more popular than us. People are more excited to watch them. The president follows these people. You know, they're making money. They're stealing our audience. So let's do what we can to shut them down. And that's why you see even Fox News doesn't invite a lot of independent journalists online on TV, even though they get amazing content that could aid the president or aid the conservative agenda. And it's concerning. And that's why, you know, social media is so important, because it is also people's livelihood. And when you shut people down, especially when people have invested money into paid advertisements to build up their page and build up a personality and build their business, it's so wrong to take that away from somebody without warning. You can't do that. And also, I think that there's a psychological component as well that I think that Twitter has not really thought about. What happens when you have a generation of people like millennials, for example, who are very hooked on social media? There are people who are addicted. I'll admit, I'm pretty addicted to Twitter. You know, I'm pretty addicted to social media because I'm always online, and I start to feel very antsy if I don't use it. Well, it's like a drug. If you give somebody heroin and then all of a sudden you take it away from them and you say you can't have any more heroin ever without tapering them off of it, you can make people go crazy. And when people are sitting at a computer all day and they're on social media, and their social lives, sometimes their romantic lives, their professional lives all revolve around social media, and you take that away from somebody, you are sending a person into a state of shock or depression. And I know people who have been banned and then they get very depressed, you know, and so they need to think about this. And that's why that lady, Nizam Agdam, went into YouTube and shot up YouTube, because they demonetized her account and they basically treated her unfairly. So she decided to go to YouTube and shoot people, and then she killed herself. And that's the reality of the world we're living in today. I mean, people are addicted to social media, and you can't just take away their social media. I don't know if they even think about this aspect of it, but, and I don't know what you think about that, Jeff, but I think that that is also of concern. You know,
we collectively see there's the business side, and then there's the technologist side, the computer nerd in all of us. I mentioned Jack is a real humble guy, and anyone who knows him will describe him that way. There's really not much that is pretentious about Jack, except when he leases gigantic yachts and runs around with his friends on them. But that's another story. No, Jack's a nice guy. Let me ask you this, because in the interest of solving some of these problems and making sure your voice is heard, Laura, if you knew, because we have this concept in technology companies we call the elevator pitch. That's like the quick pitch. I actually have Jack's email address, and if you knew that a snippet of video was going to make it to him for sure, and that he was going to hear you for sure, and a few of his colleagues too. So what I'm going to do, why don't we just take about a minute, and I'll make sure that this part of the conversation, I'll send it myself personally to Jack and a few people that are very close to him, so he'll see it for sure. What would you want to tell Jack? And I'm going to encourage myself, I can't force anyone to do anything, but I'm going to encourage Jack to debate you. Jack, I think you owe this nice young lady an apology, and you ought to think twice about deplatforming her. She's smart, she's politically sophisticated, she happens to be conservative, but she's got some interesting ideas. What would you like to say to Jack in about a minute or less, Laura, about your recent deplatforming or suspension experience?
Well, I would like to say that Jack has a really big responsibility as being the inventor and the CEO of Twitter. And with that responsibility, he needs to take into consideration the fact that there are millions of people around the world with different viewpoints, different religious backgrounds, different political beliefs, who are using this platform to try to communicate. And I would just really ask him, I would really ask him to, think about the implications he's having on democracy and people's personal lives, and try to put himself in our shoes for 1 second and think to himself, how would he feel if he was a conservative, right? How would he feel if he was an outspoken conservative, if his viewpoints were completely switched for a day and he wasn't in charge of the company, and then he just had everything that he had worked for, everything he worked hard for his entire life just taken away from him, right? And he had no reason or no explanation for it, and he was just told, all right, well, that's how it has to be. I would just ask him to think about that, because that's how conservatives feel right now. They feel targeted, they're nervous, they're anxious, they feel like they have targets on their back every single day, and it's because big tech is collectively working in Silicon Valley to shut us down. And I would really ask him to accept my offer to come to San Francisco and visit his headquarter office and gather a panel of conservative activists and conservative journalists and thought leaders, people who have been suspended, so that we can work together to come up with a solution. And I would be more than happy to do that. I would love to do that. I would love to work with Jack Dorsey on this so that we can maybe, diffuse the situation and help build a more inclusive Twitter and social media environment for everybody. But he has to be willing to work with people, and, there needs to be none of this name calling, because, I'm not a white supremacist. I'm not alt-right. I'm just a conservative journalist. I'm very passionate about what I believe in. And I would love to be able to express myself freely without being shut down for having a different viewpoint as, the Twitter engineer who is going through all the Twitter reports.
Jack, you have a real opportunity here to solve a problem with Laura Loomer before it gets bigger. I don't think she's going away. She's got a pretty strong voice. And you hear her extending a friendly olive branch to you to work on some of these problems. There's someone else in our group who feels she was treated unfairly. Her name is Tamara Lee. Tamara, a minute or less, what would you say to Jack if you knew he was going to see your video?
I would say, one, I would like all my content back, because you build it, you create things. As a writer, things I have written and really well-constructed tweets, and you put effort into it, and it's an art form, and I love the art form. I love the construct of having to create your message in that 140 or 280 characters. As a writer, I like that about it. And I have no access to all of that content, all the memes I've created. Twitter took it away like that. Poof, it was gone. And then that demotivates you to try and rebuild, because you're like, well, you never know when the hammer is going to come down. After you invest more energy, I'm up to about 10,000 followers now, and have put effort into having my voice be out there again. But you never know when it's going to be gone like that again, and you have no access to your work. How would you like that if your work was taken away from you and you
Yeah.
can't even put it in a portfolio or, you know,
Tamara,
share it?
what's the name, Tamara, of your Twitter account that was
It was
suspended?
at Tamara Lee LLC, TAMARALEIGH LLC. And now
Okay.
my new one is at Tamara Lee underscore LLC.
Laura, I know this is probably obvious because so many people know you, but let's just be specific. What was the name of your Twitter account that was suspended?
My Twitter account is at Laura Loomer. And if you see this video before Election Day is over, Jack, I would really appreciate for you to restore my account because I was suspended without reason. And I'm a conservative journalist and I feel silenced right now. And I can't do my job effectively by not having my account right now. So please, you know, find it within yourself to restore my account and invite me to, you know, your headquarter office. And I'd be happy to meet with you and discuss these issues and, you know, gather a lot of these conservatives who have spoken out against you in Twitter so that we can all meet together because I know most of them. I know most of the people. I'm friends with a lot of the people who you have suspended and shut down, and you're really affecting their lives and their businesses, and it's not fair. It's not right. And I don't think that you're probably, you know, you probably have a moral compass and a, you know, a conscience. And if you, you know, if you have a heart and you have a soul and you know, believe in doing the right thing, then you should, you know, extend this olive branch to meet with conservatives and try to make things right.
Jack, I'm Jeffrey Peterson. You'll remember me as a good friend of Richard Rosenblatt and the founder of Kitbasa, which traded publicly as QPSA and now trades as Meet Me, MEET, on NASDAQ, and a friend of our mutual friend, Bambi Francisco, who runs Vader.tv, who used to cover me and who covers you since the days she was at CBS Market Watch. We are working on a new competitor for you. Yes, it'll be mobiledotco. It's a work in progress. It'll take some time. So in the meantime, we've just been analyzing some of these alternative social media platforms and the good and the bad and the ugly of the current political debate. Seems kind of strange to me, Jack, some of the potential activism that seems to be occurring inside Twitter. So I don't know. You guys need to talk about it. You have some smart people here who are willing to debate with you. You may consider taking them up on that. I want to thank you, Laura, for being with us on tonight's video, and Tamara, with your insightful political commentary. It's always, we always learn something every time we have you on, Tamara. And Laura, we hope to talk to you again. I'm going to take this section of the video and email it over to Jack and a few people that are close to him. I don't know if he'll listen to me. I would assume he'll probably see it because I'm not just going to send it to him. I'll send it to a few people around him as well. But maybe we'll be able to further the conversation, maybe not. At any rate, I wish you the best, and we hope to talk to you again real soon.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone, have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thanks, Laura.